We're just waiting for confirmation now that the live stream's been switched on. Okay, it started, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, good morning everyone and welcome to the virtual meeting of the Cornwall Pension Fund Local Pension Board. Before consideration of today's business, I'll outline the protocols for the meeting. Firstly, part 1 of today's meeting, up to agenda item 9, is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. I would like to welcome the members of the public watching today. At today's meeting, when board members are speaking, they may choose to use their video if they have a camera, but that is a choice for each individual member of the board. If the council's live stream fails, which is not expected, but if it fails during the meeting and we cannot share proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a board member experiences a technical issue, I will also adjourn the meeting for a short period to try to re-establish the connection. Could I ask all board members who wish to speak on an item or to propose or second a motion if you could indicate by placing an X in the chat room box? I'll monitor that during the meeting. If for any reason I miss you, please simply unmute and speak and ask to speak. As I call board members to speak, I'll remind you to switch on your microphone if needed. However, if for some reason we still cannot hear you, the democratic officer will advise. For governance reasons, a formal vote will be taken on each recommendation. The vote will be taken by roll call and the result will be announced by Lynn Beardsmore, the democratic officer. When confidential matters on the agenda are to be considered, the press and public will be excluded from the meeting. At this point, all board members will be required in turn to confirm and declare that there are no other persons present who are not entitled to either hear or consider the matters under discussion. Where a board member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting, their departure will be confirmed, and they'll be invited to rejoin the meeting at an appropriate time. That's the end of the announcement, so we can shortly commence the virtual meeting of the board. However, before we start today's business, Lynn Beardsmore will ask all board members to confirm that they are present and to state their role in the meeting. So I now pass over to Lynn.
Lynn Beardsmore, Democratic Officer. I'll now call your name. Please can board members confirm your name and your role on the board. Mark Spilsbury.
I'm present here as the independent chair of the Cornwall Local Pension Board.
Katie Dalsgaard.
Morning everybody, I'm Katie Dalsgaard and I'm an employee rep on the board.
Peter Rugg.
Yeah, hi, I'm here and I'm also an employee rep on the board.
Ian Smart. Ian Smart.
Ian Smart, I'm an employer member on the board.
Amanda Troll.
Yes, I'm here and I'm an employee representative on the board.
And the following officers are also in attendance. Matt Davies, Assistant Pensions Benefits Manager. Sean Johns, Pension Investments Manager. Melissa Kelly, Assistant Pension and Investments Officer. And Teresa Scroggie, Assistant Pensions Investments Officer. And myself as Democratic Officer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. We'll now move on to the agenda for today's meeting. And agenda item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, Lynn?
Apologies from Nigel Carr and Emma Coon.
Thank you. And I'd particularly like to welcome Katie Dalsgaard to your first meeting with the board. So welcome, Katie, and I hope you find the board useful. We're very pleased that you've come on to the board. So welcome.
Thank you.
Right, item number 2, declarations of interest. Does any board member have a new declaration of interest that you wish to make? If so, can you place an X in the chat box, please? There are no new declarations of interest. So we'll move on now to the minutes of the previous meeting, agenda item 3. These are for information and the board has been asked to note the minutes. That's all we will do unless any officers want to comment on any particular point on the minutes. If any officer wishes to comment, could you please put a X in the chat box. Okay, in that case, could I ask a member of the board if they could put in a chat box, an X in the chat box to propose the minutes, please? Thank you. We have a proposer, and could I have somebody to put an X in the chat box to second the minutes, please? Okay, I'll take the first one there. So the recommendation is proposed by Katie Dalsgaard and is seconded by Ian Smart.
I'll just go through the roll call, Chairman.
Thank you.
Peter Rugg, for, against or abstain, please. Peter Rugg,
Yeah,
for,
sorry.
against
For-
or abstain, please.
4, please. 4.
Thank you. Mark Spilsbury,
4.
Amanda Troll.
4.
Thank you. That's unanimous, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We'll move on now to agenda item 4, the Cornwall Pension Fund Local Pension Board Business Update. As shown on page 10 of the papers, the board is being asked to note the update provided in the business report and to seek from officers clarifications and further assistance that they require. I'll now pass over to Matt Davis, the Assistant Pensions Administration Manager, to present the paper and also to give the board a verbal update on the implementation of the new payroll system in the context of a report that went to the last meeting of the Pension Committee. So I'll pass over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Mark. So it's all the usual updates really from me, starting with the last Southwest Area Pension Officers Group meeting. We had a virtual meeting in May, and as you can imagine, it was pretty dominated by COVID and McLeod. At that point, the LGA had provided quite a lot of help for local authorities, and the Rachel Abbey from the LGA came down to, or was at the meeting, and directed us to all of this information and what we could do with it. So all of that's been added to our website and included in newsletters where appropriate. Next key point was an update from the technical group, which was just confirming that the proposed exit cap that's been talked about for a number of years now was pushing forward. There's still a few issues as far as the LGPS is concerned, mainly around how we will treat standardised national strain costs for redundancies, and how that can affect members that potentially might breach the cap, because at the moment there's no way to waive that or to change the amount of the strain costs. So there will be some regulation changes required for the LGPS for us to be able to adopt this. In the any other business, there was a question raised about McLeod judgment and how that's going to affect funds in the coming years, and really what funds could do now to try and get ready. Unfortunately, at the moment, really, there isn't a great deal that we can do, but we are trying to look at the data now and try and identify potential members. Now, this will be anybody who wasn't covered by the underpin due to their age, and that's now been found to be discriminatory. We now need to identify all of those members and potentially apply the underpin to them. Now, the underpin is just a comparison between the care benefits that came in 2014 and what they would have had if they'd have remained in a final salary scheme. So that is hanging over us. That it will be quite a lot of work for our team